Hello, brothers and sisters. Brother Nuddle here. It's been a while since we've done one of these. I apologize. I've been slacking off big time. This time I want to talk a little bit about sump pumps, though. We have pretty severe groundwater issues here in this area where our water table is very high, and I'm pretty sure most everybody in this area has a sump pump in their basement. Sump pumps are there to take groundwater that's going to well up, preferably in some type of retention area, and pump it away from the house. We recently had some pretty wet spells back on the 10th, I believe it was. I had just showed up to work that day. Sydney started calling me and texting me and telling me that somebody in the neighborhood said that they had some sump pump issues, or that it almost didn't go off, or something along those lines. Throughout the day, I kept getting messages and updates, and then we went to this fairly severe patient who was getting close to dying. And as we were trying to work, I started getting messages on my phone saying, hey, there's water in this sump pump, and there's even more in this other one, and the water level's getting higher. And Sydney was asking questions about what to do and how they worked, and I just wasn't 100% sure because it's not something we had really looked into. So let's talk about how sump pumps work. I'll try and link a video into this video description. I'll have two links in there, one for a video about how they work. It's really simple in case this explanation doesn't work, and also for some battery backups and water alarms that we'll get to in just a second. So sump pumps are really simple with no real work on your end to make them operate. They don't have an on-off switch. They're automatic. They only need power. They need to be plugged in, and that's essentially how they work. They're activated by a float, just like your toilet is. So, when you flush your toilet, your float will go down into the reservoir. When the water starts to fill up, the float comes up with it, gets to a certain point, it stops. It has the same principle for how these sump pumps work. Once that float begins to lift and gets to a certain point, it will activate the switch in the sump pump and try and pump water out of your house from your retention area. Just a couple of notes here about these sump pumps. Make sure to pump the water away from your house as far as you can. We don't want it to be close to our house because that will just soak right through pretty quickly and probably just come right back in your basement, which you don't want. Try and get it as far away as you can. I know we have a bunch of corrugated pipe that's used to pipe it away from the house. Don't know how effective it is because we've never had to use it yet. So they require very little maintenance. The only things I could find is you want to clean out that retention area every once in a while. Being in a basement, it's probably just going to collect dust and cobwebs and all sorts of little junk. You can test it on occasion with water. Bring a 5-gallon bucket down to your retention area full of water, dump it in there, and see what happens. That's what we're going to do once we kind of get a drier spell here. Maybe once the snow melts away, we're going to just see what point that water level has to get to before ours turns on. So again, you can just take a 5-gallon bucket in there. It's going to pump it out anyways. It's not going to hurt anything. Oh yeah, cool. Okay, a couple things to look for. So our house actually flooded right before we bought it, and we moved in 2 years ago, the end of December, basically January 1st we moved in, so it's been just over 2 years. And prior to that, the basement had flooded because I guess one of the sump pumps couldn't keep up. So we had to redo all of our carpet down here, and the previous owners had installed another sump pump. So I got down there looking one day, and there was an extension cord going from my utility room underneath my basement, which was actually the power for the sump pump. Just a couple things. First off, it's against fire code. Please don't use your extension cord as a main power source because it can catch on fire. It's kind of dangerous. You want those hardwired in. If you need to, run Romex and a new outlet. It's fairly simple. If you need help, call me. I'd be happy to come help you do something like that. Just make sure your sump pumps are plugged into an actual outlet and not an extension cord. Oh yes, okay, so let's get to these battery backups. As I was looking through stuff about sump pumps, apparently these are pretty common in other parts of the country. And they actually have battery backups and water alarms to ensure that your sump pump is going to work even if the power goes out, like during a major storm. Good idea, right? We were told that we usually don't have groundwater issues until, number one, there's snow on the ground, which we have, and number two, it starts to rain a lot, which we had 10 days ago, 11 days ago. That would be terrible if all of a sudden the power went out and basement flooded because we didn't have power and didn't have a backup. I'll have a link to those in the description of this video as well, just so you can get started looking around. Again, it's a battery backup, and there's a water alarm that can go off to tell you if the water level is getting too high. Maybe your sump pump is malfunctioning. You can go down and start troubleshooting it. It's just a auditory alarm. Again, I'll just put those in the links if you guys want to get started looking for that, if that's something you're interested in. If you guys have any questions about sump pumps, don't feel too afraid to reach out and ask. I don't know very much about them either, but we can try and figure it out. That's all I have for you guys today. Thank you very much. We'll see you in the next video.